Also, give you an example of what an agency is. I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation. Imagine you're at Walmart and you're shopping for your goodies, and you go up to the checkout line and they scan all your little items and it comes up to $100. They push another little button and it comes up to $100 and more dollars. Well, where did that extra charge come from? It's a tax. Well, let me ask you, is Walmart charging taxes or are they collecting taxes? They're collecting taxes for the state. How are they doing that? With what vested authority from the state do they have to collect a purported sales tax from the consumer? They do it through their business license that they obtain from the state to operate within its jurisdiction. They are acting with the full vested capacity as a tax collector. They are an agency of the government by collecting a purported tax from the consumer. Therefore, everybody in business that is collecting a tax for the government is, in the eyes of the court, acting as an agency of the government. Do you see how that works? Very simple. Now, to have the statutory authority to solicit a Social Security number, the law must have been on the books, the federal statutory books, prior to January the 1st of 1975. If it came after 1975, it has no weight of law. To give you a hypothetical situation as to how this works, a gentleman contacted me. He was applying for a hunting license, and he did not really want to give his Social Security number on the hunting license. And he looked on the back of it, and the license stated that they had the authority to solicit his Social Security number under the Deadbeat Dad's Law that was enacted 1 year prior to him applying for that hunting license, which I believe was in 2005 or something like that. Well, let me ask you, since the law was enacted in 2005, was it prior to January the 1st of 1975? No, it wasn't. Therefore, they did not have the federal statutory authority legally to solicit his Social Security number. Okay? They just enacted the law after the fact. But they still had to publicize when they got it. It's up to the individual to determine whether or not they have the legal juice to solicit information. Really and truly, they didn't. Now, let's go on to the next section of this paragraph. If the disclosure was required under statute or regulation adopted prior to such date to verify the identity of an individual. That section was put in because later on, after the Privacy Act was enacted and this annotation came out, that there was some discrepancy as to whether or not the Internal Revenue Service had the federal statutory authority to solicit individual Social Security numbers. And it was determined that the IRS had been using a regulation on the books that dated from 1960 as their legal authority to solicit Social Security numbers from individuals for taxation purposes. Well, remember now, it states that it must be a federal statute, must be granted by statutory authority, not by anything else. So what has happened is the IRS has now come out and stated that disclosing your Social Security number is voluntary. However, if you don't disclose it, you will not be credited for benefits and for paying your taxes. It's kind of a catch-22 situation. There's plenty of information out there to read on this subject. Now, for the last paragraph of this annotation in Section 7B, it states, any federal, state, or local government agency which requests an individual to disclose his Social Security account number shall inform that individual whether that disclosure was mandatory or voluntary, by what statutory or other authority such number is solicited, and what uses will be made of it. Now, all the stipulations laid out here in this last paragraph under Section 7B are required by federal statutory law. Anyone soliciting an individual Social Security number are required by federal law to disclose to that individual whether the information, meaning their social security number, is mandatory or voluntary. Next, they are required by federal law to tell the individual what statutory, meaning the United States codes annotated, or other authority such number is solicited, as we spoke about in Section 2B concerning the IRS, and what uses their social security number will be put to and what it will be made of it. Now, also, the individual can require that Section 7B be put to them, not in a verbal discussion, but on their legal corporate letterhead, and that you are requiring that it be signed. Because I noticed that a lot of corporations will try to say, oh, well, this law says federal government, it doesn't apply to us. Yeah, it does. And if you don't believe it, I would like to have documented proof that you're telling me that if my social security number is mandatory under your corporate policy, that it be put to me in your corporate letterhead and you sign your name to it. Because when I go to federal court, I'm going to be bringing you in front of the federal district judge. You'll notice a very change of heart by the corporate entity that you are dealing with when you do that. I call it attitude adjustment.
You have to let it all go, Neo. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. Free your mind.
As you can see, we've had our eye on you for some time now, Mr. Anderson. It seems that you've been living two lives. In one life, you're Thomas A. Anderson, program writer for a respectable software company. You have a social security number, you pay your taxes, and you help your landlady carry out her garbage. The other life is lived in computers, where you go by the hacker alias Neo and are guilty of virtually every computer crime we have a law for. One of these lives has a future, and one of them does not. I'm going to be as forthcoming as I can be, Mr. Anderson. You're here because we need your help. We know that you've been contacted by a certain individual, a man who calls himself Morpheus. Now, whatever you think you know about this man is irrelevant. He is considered by many authorities to be the most dangerous man alive. My colleagues believe that I'm wasting my time with you, but I believe you wish to do the right thing. We're willing to wipe the slate clean, give you a fresh start. And all that we're asking in return is your cooperation in bringing a known terrorist to justice.